What's up YouTube, I'm Mike, and today I'm back finally with the video that I think anyone who's been following my recent cycle has probably been looking forward to hearing. I finally got my estrogen level back. I actually got it back, I think yesterday, I just haven't in me to make the video yesterday. It's been pretty busy around here. So today I'm not going to rehash everything because these videos are just becoming redundant. I have been running a no testosterone cycle for over a month now. I got all of the testosterone out of my system, which of course caused my estradiol level to crash. I went low, or so I suspected. I felt confident that my estradiol was low, and so I started injecting estradiol valerate. I pinned estradiol valerate for the first time on Monday, September the 16th. I injected 0.2 milligrams of estradiol valerate on September the 16th and immediately started to feel better. But after injecting the estradiol valerate, as I said in previous videos, my gyno flared up, which caused me to panic. I was having all of the symptoms of low estrogen. I had been feeling completely crashed, and while crashed, my D game was functional, and I had absolutely no gyno to speak of. The second that I reintroduced the estradiol, the gyno flared up a little bit, and within like 3 or 4 days, I started having dodgy D game. So I administered cabergoline twice. Like I said, again, I've already talked about this. If you don't know the whole history, go back and watch one of the previous videos. I will link the first one at the end of this video. So what I was convinced that my estradiol was low, but I was nervous because of the gyno symptoms, so I started pinning 0.1 milligrams every other day. Every 2 days, I was pinning 0.1 milligrams. So if we turn to our trusty trans feminine science simulator calculator, this is from transfemscience.org. They have an estradiol simulator where you can plug in what type of estrogen you're using. So for example, for my purposes, I have plugged in estradiol valerate in oil. Then you can put in the dose and you can put in the interval, and it will calculate on a graph where it'll plot just like a steroid plotter. It's just an estrogen plotter, but for it's like a steroid plotter but for estrogen. So it will plot out on a graph what your estradiol level should be in concentration, in serum concentration. This is measured in picograms per milliliter, just like my blood work. So when pinning 0.1 milligrams of E2 of estradiol valerate, every other day, the graph suggests that my estrogen should go from 0. Now remember, this is assuming that I have no aromatase activity going on in my body at all. That my estradiol level should have a trough of about 15 picograms per milliliter and a peak at about 19 picograms per milliliter, which should put me right in the sweet spot of the normal reference range. I would want to be somewhere between 15, 16 picograms per milliliter on the absolute low end, up to maybe 30 on the high end. That's usually where I feel the best. And honestly, I tend to feel a little bit better toward the higher end of normal. That seems to be when I have the best libido, D game, and everything. So I started pinning 0.1 milligrams every other day, and this went on for about 2 weeks before I was able to get my estradiol checked. I finally got the results. I donated blood for this estradiol check back on Monday, Monday, September the 30th is when I gave the blood sample, and I did not get the results back until yesterday. I cannot tell you how happy I am to report that my estradiol level came back at 12.4 picograms per milliliter. Now let me explain why this is such phenomenal news. First and foremost, let's not forget that I have 300 milligrams of nandrolone decanoate, which is supposed to be aromatizing, and 500 IUs 3 times a week, or 1,500 IUs per week of HCG, which should also be aromatizing. I should not have had a 0 estradiol level. But based on the results of this chart, one of two things is true. My estradiol level was 0, and the 300 milligrams of nandrolone, it was near 0. It had to be near 0. I mean, the calculator could be off, of course. There's a lot of variables. But to have a 12.4 picogram per milliliter estradiol level while pinning 0.1 milligrams of estradiol every other day, and while having 300 milligrams of nandrolone and 1,500 units I use of HCG in my system means that I was not high on my estrogen level, and every single thing that I was feeling in my body, I was once again feeling accurately. When I felt like I was low, I was low. When I started to feel better, it was because the estradiol, my E2 concentration was rising. I was feeling pretty good the day that I got my blood work taken, but I was not feeling all the way back. And so I said in a previous video that I went ahead and increased my estradiol valerate dose to 1.5 milligrams every 2.5 days. So at 0.1 EOD, I was at 12.4 picograms per milliliter. When I raised the dose to 1.5 every 2.5 days, my libido came raging back. My D game came raging back. My energy in the gym, everything. I was feeling my androgens again. Basically, every measurable metric that you could possibly calculate came raging back in a massive way. I have stayed on 1.5 milligrams of estradiol valerate every 2.5 days since I switched, which was on, looks like I did that on Thursday, October the 3rd. So I have now had I've had 3 doses of 1.5 milligrams per every 2.5 days, which has caused my estradiol level to rise, obviously higher than it was before. If we're going to compare apples to apples, the graph said that I should have been between 14 and 16, and now it says that I should be between 20 and 24. So obviously in my body, this graph is not accurate. When it was saying 14 to 16, I was actually at 12. So if we assume a similar pattern, when the graph is telling me that I should be at 24 to 20, I'm possibly at 18 to 22, which is, again, right perfectly in the middle of the range. So I still, assuming all of these things are true, and I will eventually get this confirmed by blood work, but assuming all of these things are true, then at 300 milligrams of nandrolone, 1,500 units of HCG, 400 milligrams of Masteron per week, and 1.5 milligrams of estradiol valerate every 2.5 days, I am back in business in every measurable way. My physique is looking phenomenal in the gym. My gym performance is back in a major way. I am shocked at how strong I am and how much endurance I have, even being in a cut. I am now holding a daytime body weight of about 200 to 200.8 pounds. That's give or take where I'm at. I have been up as high as 202.8. I've been as low as 199.6, I think. So right there is where my weight is hovering right now, and I'm basically not doing anything special on either side. So I'm not attempting to eat in a surplus, but I'm also not starving myself to death. So I should be somewhere in the maintenance zone, but my midsection continues to lean up, and my upper body is looking strong and vascular and full, which is more than I could have ever hoped for. So you may, if you have been following me on Instagram, you may be one of the 10 people who unfollowed me in the last few days. I have been feeling so fucking good in life right now. I've been taking my own glamour shots. I've been posting I've just been taking selfies with my decent camera and like work clothes, kind of like modeling shots for lack of a better term. I recorded some video of me doing yard work today and posted that. I'm basically just in the best mental headspace that I have been in a very, very long time. I feel like everything in my life is back on track. Everything in the bedroom is solved. Every single problem that I was experiencing with the nandrolone / mint / whatever BS cycle, all of that is gone. I'm currently taking 84 milligrams of trenbolone acetate per week, which is 12 milligrams per day. 400 milligrams of Masteron, 300 milligrams of nandrolone. That is all of the anabolics currently in my system. So right now, we're still in the early going, okay? I just got my E2 dialed in. But what we have at a minimum is proof of concept. We have proof of concept. I have no testosterone in my system. I am supplementing nandrolone and Masteron and trenbolone with injectable estradiol in a very easy to dose and make at home, because I can do it legally, concentration. I'm using my wife's estradiol, and my D game is dialed into perfection. So what will be really interesting to see is over the next several weeks to a couple of months, how do I continue to feel? One of the things I want to be transparent about, which is really weird, I have an idea. Every time I inject the estrogen, that first 24-hour period, I have fluctuations in gyno. So the lumps are there. They inflame, they deflate. It seems to be that the changing estradiol level is activating the gyno in some way. It's not growing, it's not going away, it's just kind of there, and the sensitivity seems to be, it's hit or miss, it's all over the place. But my libido is raging. Every other measurable metric you could think of is just dialed into the sweet spot. So if this continues to hold true over the course of the next 4 to however many weeks, I'm going to continue to run this cycle as long as I feel good. And when I say this cycle, I mean I'm going to continue to stay off testosterone, off all AIs. I may or may not tinker with my androgen load. But if I make changes to my androgen load, it will almost certainly be an increase in Masteron, a possible increase in trenbolone, a possible addition of primobolan, possibly anadrol, although I have to check on that to make sure there's, I'm pretty sure oxandrolone does not aromatize in any way. So basically, I may or may not tinker with non-aromatizable compounds in pursuit of the best cut-up physique I can get. One of the reasons, I told my wife last night that I'd already changed some of my androgen load. She's like, oh my God, you cannot leave anything alone. You just finally got to a place where you're feeling good, and now you're effing around with the androgens. The reason for that is twofold. One, I'm a drug addict and I like to mess around with androgens. Two, because I want to test the validity of these circumstances. I have made no end of videos talking about how getting onto a particular, especially trenbolone, like I come up on a trenbolone blast. I've got all of this insatiable libido, this sensation, the D game is firing on all cylinders. Everything's great, but it doesn't last. That's the problem. With estrogen in my system, in a normal state, with having testosterone and other aromatizable compounds, I have never been able, in the last 5 years or so, to perfectly maintain any kind of libido and bedroom performance when I'm messing with other compounds. My hypothesis on that is that it is the change in estrogen levels that's causing all of the problems. If that is true, then I should be free to add or subtract, add Primo, add Masteron, take this, take that. If this experiment is truly working, I should be able to do whatever I want to whatever I want with non-aromatizable compounds. and at a maximum only improve libido. So if I add more trenbolone, I should expect to get more libido, more aggression. More Masteron could lead to better libido. All of these things could improve libido, but it should never go below baseline. Again, never. Because my estradiol is dialed in perfectly to the sweet spot with no variations. There are no more variations. When you look at the graph, my trough, my peak and trough is only four picograms per milliliter in magnitude. So what I am considering doing is trying, if I do anything at all, it will be to modify the dose to something that I can take every 2 days, which for example would be like if I took 1.5 every 2 days, that should put me between 25 and 30. That is something I might try depending on how the gyno continues to work. As long as the gyno does not get worse, then I might try going to 1.5 milligrams every 2 days to get a flatter curve. At the 2-day mark, you have a maximum variability of about 27 on the low end and 29 on the high end. So that kind of slowly undulating graph was what I'm really looking forward to, is what I'm really looking for. I don't think my body is so sensitive that the 2.5 days really matters, but because the gyno is not staying static, because it ebbs and flows, and if my libido should prove to ebb and flow, then we will have proven that it is directly tied to where your estrogen level is at, and the rises and falls are in and of themselves problematic. It may get to a point where I decide to inject E2 every single day. So a dose of 0.1 every day would be a lot. That would put me at about 37. So that's probably too much. So 0.75. Oh, what am I doing? You'd have to go to 0.05, and that would be 0.07. So about 0.07 every day. I don't think that I could. I would have to make my own. I would have to make my own injectable, I think, to accomplish that. When I pen 0.15, that is 3 units on an insulin pen. So going below that really is not ideal. Like I can do 0.1 easy enough. That's 2 units on an estrogen on a insulin pen. But if I decide to go to daily injections to get the flattest possible curve, then I will have to remanufacture the estradiol. So there you have it. I cannot tell you. Words cannot express how good I feel psychologically right now. That is for 2 reasons. 1, because I was right and my experiment is working. But 2, because the vast majority of misery that I have suffered over the past 6 months has come from when I could not feel my body anymore. That was the thing that I was so terrified was going to happen in this experiment. I was convinced that I knew based on feel where my estrogen level was. And when the test came back and verified that my feel meter is working again, that just completely renewed my confidence that I have always known out the gate what truly was going. I had it figured out all along. Trenbolone is not hepatotoxic. I don't care what anybody else tells you. Masteron is not a SERM. I do not care what anybody else tells you. I have gyno on 600 milligrams of Masteron. It is not a SERM. Primobolan is not an AI. I do not give a shit what Vigorous Steve tells you. None of these drugs have these extra special activities that people have claimed, and I have proven this time and time again in my own research, and it is now being proven to be true again. I think I have unlocked a door that could absolutely change the game of bodybuilding. By managing your estrogen level and then being free to run non-aromatizable compounds, I think guys can build substantially better bodies and have substantially better stage presence because you have total control over the devil itself, which in this case is the estrogen. The estrogen causes all of the problems. If my estrogen varies 10 picograms, my entire life can fall apart. I can go from 2 grams of injectable androgens to 200 milligrams and have little to no psychological changes. The estrogen is the problem. And so when you figure out what the devil is, that's the thing you want to control the most. We are free to go as crazy as we want with androgens if we have control of that one variable that can ruin everything. Too much estrogen, too little estrogen in your life is a total disaster, and I have finally found a way to take control of it. So there you have it. I will have more videos for sure coming up in the days and weeks to follow to keep you posted on how I'm feeling, if anything changes, if any of my doses change, if my physique starts to look different or starts to flag in any way. You guys, will, as always, will be the first to know. So stay tuned. As always, thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one.